Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by my old friend David Price, former British and Commonwealth heavyweight champion, of course, Olympic bronze medalist. We could go on and on, but I want to talk to you about what's going on now rather than in the past. We haven't seen you for a year now. I think it was a year yesterday with the fight with Dereck Chisora. Have there been offers to come back since boxing returned from lockdown, fight camp and so on?
No, nothing yet, mate. Not so far. It's been quiet, but I haven't exactly put myself out there. I think if I started making it be known and ready to start listening to offers, then I think there'd be a couple of inquiries, I'd imagine. But I haven't done anything until the beginning of last week, as in put a pair of gloves on, and I did last week. Just wanted to hit a bag, and I was like, "Ooh, I missed this." Even though at the time I didn't realise it, but I put a pair of gloves on, and I quite enjoyed hitting the bags, because the longer you go without doing something, you kind of forget your own capabilities. And I know it's just hitting a bag or shadow or whatever, but you know, the ability is always there with myself. You know, although I've had me defeats, a couple of defeats or whatever, and disappointments, but the ability will always still be there, and the punch power will be there, and that's why there's always going to be an interest to some degree while I'm still, you know, not young, but probably in my prime as a man. Yeah. Maybe bit past me peak as a fighter, but as a man, I'm in my prime, and I still look the part. You know, I'm still, you know, I'm gone grossly overweight or not. And in fact, I'm probably about 5 pounds heavier than when I last fought. So I haven't gorged or not, and I've just kept myself busy doing other things. So last week I went back in, and you know, people asking me, when are you going to fight again? And I was like, look, I'm 90% not going to fight again. But then I'd done a couple of boxing sessions last week, and someone else asked me on Monday, and I said I was 80% not going to fight again. It's wrong, but we'll see. We'll see.
So in about another month, it'll be under 50.
Yeah, I'll be putting my name out there, pick the phone up and start dialing.
What's the main parts of it that you do miss? Because you said as soon as you started hitting the bag, you thought, I'd miss this. Is it mainly the training rather than the actual competing?
The training, yeah, but it's the competing. The competing is what it's all about. So, especially for myself, because in the last 2-3 years, last 2.5 years, I've been on some big stages, some big shows, and you know, sold out stadiums, sold out arenas, box office bills, and been pretty glamorous, if I'm honest. The fighting side of it hasn't been like small hall shows, you know, York Hall jobs and all that. And the training is what it is. There's nothing glamorous about that, but the main part of it, the fight week, because it's been on the big cards, everything's been really, you know, quality. So I have missed that, but at the same time, you know, I've spent a year out the ring, and my last fight was a 4th round stoppage defeat. So the longer, like I said, the longer you go without doing anything, your confidence, you know, the confidence disappears really, because it's use it or lose it, isn't it? And you do forget, you know, what you can do, but then all of a sudden the muscle memory kicks in when you start training again, and it's just there, isn't it? It's been that long, it's still there. So I mean, I was in training up until February, so I'd say about 7-8 months without actually hitting on. The shoulder problem was there. That's addressed for now. But training's one thing, fighting's another. You know, but this time last week, the thought of even sparring wasn't doing nothing for me. But now I'm like, oh man, having a little spar. But it's got to be right. You know, I could liken it to being in a casino and winning a load of money on the roulette. And what do I do? Walk away and quit while I'm ahead, and I mean that metaphorically in boxing terms, where I've had a good couple of years, I'm well, I'm healthy, or do I think, do you know what, let's have one more spin of the wheel type of thing, or where the odds are in my favour, as in the opponent on the other side of the ring, you know, statistically speaking, is likely someone I'll beat. But I always say that lately. That's the name of the game in boxing, isn't it? It's not who you fight, it's who you don't fight a lot of the time. And there's some interesting ones out there, like I've said in the past, like your Lucas Browns, people in the similar stages of the career as me, which would still be an attraction of some sort. So the longer it goes on, I don't really want to throw my hands in, because look, Tyson Fury's looking for opponents. I'm not going to get that fight, but in a few months' time, there may be someone else in a similar situation where they're looking for an opponent. People are fucking failing COVID tests like left, right, and centre. Do you know what I mean? So there's going to be a lot of shuffling about, but that's where I'm at anyway.
If boxing was as it was when you were last competing, the big shows, massive sellout crowds, do you think you'd be more tempted to return, or at least sooner than with things as they are now with no fans?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that hasn't crossed my mind. I do miss what I'm saying. I miss the event. The event isn't the same anymore, is it? Unfortunately, not for the foreseeable anyway. So yeah, I probably would have sooner had the urge to come back. It's definitely like dampen the appetite the way things are. It's the same with the footy, isn't it? You put the footy on and there's no fans there. It just hasn't got that same energy, that same feeling. So boxing's no different. But once you're in the ring competing, then you're in a fight. It doesn't matter. But the build up, the feeling, the fight week, I don't think it'd have the same. I don't think it'd have the same buzz about it.
And when the card was first announced, it seemed that Dave Allen, someone you comprehensively outscored and beat fairly comfortably not so long ago, was going to fight Christian Hammer, someone else you've got experience of. What did you make of that fight?
I thought it was potentially going to be a really good fight. It would have just been a matter of Dave Allen having to pull his finger out and go to work and work with Christian Hammer. Christian Hammer only beat me, in my opinion, because I weighed in at nearly 20 stone for that fight. And he just outworked me, and the gas tank just ran empty. And he made me work. The thing is with Christian Hammer, though, he can be quite negative if he doesn't really fancy the job. So if you watch them against Povetkin or Luis Ortiz, he was just about going the 12 rounds. But he'd have fancied the job against Dave Allen, I'm sure, because of the comparison, the results. He's beaten me, I've beat Dave Allen, whatever. But you shouldn't really look into that. But I thought the styles were going to gel pretty well. And it would have been, something like watching Danny Williams against Michael Sprott years ago. Similar dimensions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Similar type of fighters. And it would have been an interesting watch.
And now he's been replaced, Christian Hammer, contracted COVID. As you said, people failing COVID tests left, right and centre. He's one of them. And Christopher Lovejoy has come in. Do you know much about him? I confess I don't.
No, I've just seen. I've only just started reading about boxing again, to be honest. But I've just seen that he's 19-0 with a ranking with the WBA. So I don't think he's fought anyone else. He's fought a load of was it Mexicans or something, like Mexican heavyweights or whatever. So it's a nice fight for Dave Allen. It's a bit of an PR job, isn't it? 19-0, get a nice ranking, but the reality is this guy probably, going off what I'm seeing on paper, there's more there's more on paper than to actual reality. But we'll see on Saturday night. He's a bit of an unknown quantity, isn't he? Because there's not much. Is there any footage of him?
I haven't seen much, no. Apparently he was in camp with Tyson Fury as a sparring partner, and they had very different accounts of what occurred in the sparring sessions.
Okay. Tyson Fury, he'll probably fill Dave Allen in on what to expect, won't he?
Yeah,
and that's probably why Dave Allen probably said, yeah, we'll take this. Or, but, you know, it's a good fight for Dave Allen. And it just goes to show, to be honest. And I'm all for it. You know, Dave Allen took the worst beating of his career against myself. And then he got a win in his comeback fight. And then he was fighting Christian Hammer, who's not long for Povetkin and Lewis Ortiz. And it just goes to show in the heavyweight division, you only have a one win really away from a decent fight, because TV networks love the heavyweights and they want content to show the fans, because they know the fans love the heavyweight, and it's a bit of a privileged position to be in, to be honest, because a lot of other fighters at different weights aren't as lucky.
And I should apologise so I don't get caned in the comments later on. You were comprehensively outscoring Dave Allen, but it ended in a retirement on the stall, which I should have remembered.
Yeah, I thought you meant that anyway. That's all right.
So I didn't need to say it. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Main event, obviously, Oleksandr Usyk against Dereck Chisora. You went in against Chisora a year ago. We know you didn't have the full camp that you would have liked. And it turned into quite a tough night for you quite early on. What sort of things does Dereck do well that maybe people don't appreciate watching on TV?
Yeah, I think he closes the distance well. I think I landed one decent shot in that fight, and
it was the uppercut, wasn't it, just before the end of the
round? Yeah. Probably down to two different things. I mean, one of them obviously being my own lack of quality preparation, and the fact I went into the fight in that situation and I was carrying an injury which I'd done 10 days before the fight probably added to it. That so in the fight I spent more time reacting to what Dereck was doing instead of wanting to do what I was doing. But that being said, he didn't let me do what I wanted to do, because he was fighting at a ferocious pace, and he was closing the distance down where I couldn't get me jab off. And I think with Dereck, I mean, time will tell. We'll know Saturday night, because Usyk will throw plenty of leather. But I think he's got a bit of an underestimated defence, Dereck Chisora. You never really see him busted up, even though he's been in a lot of, you know, tussles and toe-to-toe type fights. You never really see his face busted up, and I think it's because he comes in with that low centre of gravity, keeps himself out of harm's way, really, and a lot of the time he's fighting taller men, so they're having to aim with the top of his head, unless it's uppercuts or coming up with the punches. I think he's got a bit of an underappreciated defence. But Usyk, although he's regarded as technically brilliant and, you know, kind of southpaw type of thing, awkward, the reality is with Usyk, he will throw plenty of leather, and he'll stay in distance with his hands up and just rocking left to right with his torso, you know, just moving his upper body. That little bit of movement he's got, and then he'll throw the shots and he'll let them go. I think I watched him against Michael Hunter, and I think it was Michael Hunter, and he thrown plenty of punches, and that's against someone who's a bit cagey. So for someone who's just going to try and walk you down and is there to throw punches at, he's not going to have to go looking for Dereck. So my comments about Dereck's defence, you know, Usyk's going to test it, isn't he? Definitely.
What do you make of Usyk's chances at heavyweight, not just against Chisora on Saturday, but going forward as well? Because he's come up from cruiserweight. He didn't look the likeliest candidate to move up, even though he'd been a super heavy as an amateur. He hasn't got the biggest frame, but he's got all the skills. Yeah. What do you make of his chances up in the biggest division?
unless he fills out into the division a bit more, I don't think he'd be able to compete with the real world class big fellas like your Tyson Fury's, your Anthony Joshua, even Deontay Wilder. I say even, he's only lost to Tyson Fury once. But Wilder, again, technically not the best, but he's got that equaliser, and for someone like Usyk, it's going to be a problem, I think. But he'll definitely compete with them, but I just don't think he'll be big enough to beat them. Like the likes of Joe Joyce, people like that, over 12 rounds. It's going to be a hard night's work for him, unless, like I said, he fills out a bit more into the weight. Be interesting to see what he weighs in. And what did he weigh in against Chaz Witherspoon?
Oh, I'd have to have
Do you know?
I don't think it was far above Cruiser.
Won't be much more than Cruiser, no. So it's going to tell us a lot on Saturday. It's a great fight, isn't it? It really is. Like, I think everyone's looking forward to it. I think it's going to do well.
And obviously the big question, before I let you go, I'm sure you've been expecting it, who's going to win?
I think you should. I'd love Dereck to do it. I've got a hell of a lot of time for Dereck, but I think styles make fights, and I think he's Usyk's perfect opponent, because he can just go at a pace, Usyk, as well. And Dereck's known for bringing the heat, but I think he'd be able to deal with it and make his speed count, and I think he'll win. I think he'll win on points, but he won't have it all his own way throughout. He's going to be made to work for it, but I think Usyk on points.
Good stuff. And we give you a call back maybe in a month or so and see if it's gone down to 50, maybe 40%.
Yeah, do it, mate. Give us a bell back and we'll catch up.
Brilliant. All right, well, I look forward
to it. See you later.
Appreciate your time, mate.
Thanks.
Take care.